Are you a hot mess? Do you find your life perpetually out of
Do
balance?
the scales of your life look like this?
Exactly. Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to be talking about balance in life, what it is, maybe how to find it, maybe how to live without it, that type of stuff, and
Yeah.
other things too. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yeah, I think that was the most generalized introduction. We're just going to talk about anything related to balance, scales, weight, time,
Weights and measures.
dimensions. Next time on the Existential Talk podcast. Yeah.
Geometry.
I
Um,
know. So, Danny, is your
yeah.
life balanced?
I mean, I keep trying to make it balanced, right? I mean, I think we all want it to be balanced. Because you always hear stuff like, work-life balance, you know, friendship and relationship balance and all that stuff and all these things we got to balance and whatever. And it's funny because I was just saying to Anna the other day, I was like, if I know like if I lived alone, I could imagine like working 24/7. Like I know I could do it. And I know I probably would because like I would just like it would probably be a distraction, right? And it would pour myself into that. But like I try really hard not to do that because I don't think it's a good idea. And I don't want to do that either. But I do feel like it's a struggle sometimes because I do still find myself like there's days where I work like if I'm doing something and it's going well, I'll just keep doing it all day, and don't stop and don't do other things. And I think it's really hard to find that balance. But I've been trying to a lot recently, and I think it's been paying off. Some things have been working, some haven't, but I still
Mhm.
get like these. I still find myself going through like peaks and valleys, where you do like doing like too much, burning myself out, and then and like
Mhm.
still, and I'm trying to get to a point where that's not the case anymore, where it's more like a level line.
Yeah. I mean, if you could strike the golden mean and kind of stay there, that's the ideal.
Yeah,
But
right.
man, recently my pendulum has been swinging back and forth all over the place. I'm like a freaking newborn. I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Yeah. That's what happens, right? And I think because like different stresses in life. I mean, life's tricky because it changes all the time. Even when you think you have things going a certain way, something happens, new stresses, new things. You make changes because you're an idiot, right? And then you
Yeah.
got to deal with them. Yeah,
Well, that's the damnedest thing is like once you think you have anything figured out, it's like automatically about to get smacked upside the head. And that's what happened. I mean, I thought I had stuff pretty well figured out, and that was my biggest mistake that I've made in a long time.
because then you get comfortable and then you get willing to make changes. That's what it
Mm,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, you get bold.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so hmm.
Well, and let me also
Well,
say that I also think it's important too, because I think also for myself, like it's so easy to fall on one side or the other, like where you also not just working all the time, but doing nothing. Because I've experienced that too, like when I like, was really depressed. And I know you have too, where you just don't do anything and you just kind of make it worse, like you're in your own pity party, right? And it just keeps like it's like a snowball. It just keeps getting exponentially worse day by day until you finally break it. But I think both of them are like represent the extremes. If you think of like Aristotle, you mentioned the golden mean, right? Finding that like golden mean, that middle area is like where I think we all want to be, where we have time for ourselves, time for our loved ones, get done what we want to get done so we feel like achievement, success. And it is like not clear what that line is. Not at
yeah.
all.
It's the son of a gun that we idolize these people who have no balance at all whatsoever in their life. Like
Nope.
I remember growing up with like musicians like Beethoven and Mozart and all that, like completely off the scale, just no balance at all in their life. They
Yep.
probably couldn't even dress themselves, but they were phenomenal piano
Yeah.
players. And like that's what we aspire to. These people
Dude.
who can't do anything except for one thing and they're the best in the world at it and we want to be them.
Well, it's even funny people that like idolize like Musk because of his money and stuff. He's been sleeping at Twitter, literally sleeping there. He's been working there so much. Like, do you really want that? No, I don't want that.
Jeez. That's crazy. Yeah.
Like it's like it
Yeah,
gets that deep.
we forget. One of the things that I found help, well, I mean, not like I'm any expert on this, but you know, us is taking it one day at a time. So because like I try and make every day my perfect day. And when I was younger, I didn't really have habits build up that I would do every day. And because of that, it was always very, very spotty if I was doing stuff, if I wasn't doing it, and it was like all over the place. But as I've gotten older, particularly in the past maybe like 5 years, I've really developed these daily habits that I do just every day. And they're part of like what I would consider an ideal day. But uh I think that's kind of helpful for finding the balance because then like I can do it and it may take a half an hour or something to do it, but then it's done. And I'm not spending, 12 hours of the day doing it, but I'm also not spending no time doing it. And I did see something. They did a study. This blew my mind. Okay. That it's actually more beneficial. You will learn something more quickly if you do it for 5 minutes a day than if you do it one time a week for 3 hours.
That makes sense.
So you could spend 35 minutes doing it, 5 minutes a day, better results than if you do it for 3 hours, but only one time a week. That's
Because
that like
because you
blew my mind.
But it makes sense. You're reinforcing it every day, though. You're not because if you do it once a week, you make a whole week in between, so you forget it. You probably forget 90% of it or 99% of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't have that good of a memory, but by reinforcing it every day, and like we've said before, you're one of those people that does that thing now. So you are
Mm-hmm.
that kind of
True.
person. You've made it part of your life. But I like what you said about habits because I think that I agree with you. It's probably been about the past 5 years where I've actually maybe been able to develop some actually consistent habits. I've had habits before, but like really ones that I think are I've chosen that are better for me, and all, and like they really do help because it's like an anchor, and it's a good way to kind of like it gives you some structure and some control. Not like I'm not talking about like having a calendar where I have every 5 minute blocked out. I'm not saying that, but like having just like a few activities that I know I'm going to do every day. It breaks up my day. That gives it some structure. It gives you more sense of control, and it kind of also allows you to do some things you want to do, and also some things you need to do. Like like for instance, like I walk my dog twice a day. I have journaling. I do I always set aside time for reading, if only
Mm-hmm.
at least like 30 minutes, like that kind of stuff. Where like some is fun for me, some's just stuff I gotta do, but it's like good. It gets me out of the house. It's exercise. That kind of stuff. I think is very helpful for finding that balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, it prevents you from both ends of the pendulum. You really only kind of hit the middle when you do it a little bit every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I think too personally, like what a lot of us struggle with too is like making time for things that we love and like things that we want that like enrich our lives. Whether it's like spending time, like this has been great for us because like we absolutely always meet every week to chat and hang out for like at least an hour, right? And that's been great. And we've been doing that for years now. And it's like I look forward to it every week, like setting aside time like that for like friends, for loved ones, so that you're not just letting your life slide by you, and like
Mm-hmm.
because you're distracted with other things, you're actually doing stuff you want to do. I remember, do you remember when we read that book, The Artist's Way, and did that together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I still do that where I scheduling like what she called artist dates, but I do
Yeah.
it like a hobby date, I guess, right?
Uh-huh.
But time for myself to go do something I want to do, like I try to do it for like hiking and for photography. And it works really well
Ah.
because at least that way I know like like every week or two I'm gonna do that, and so it's like fun.
Mm.
Granted, weather permitting sometimes, but like it gives you a
Yeah.
chance to like know that you're gonna do something you want to do, and you have it set aside. You're not stressed about making time for it. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. And I really like those things because it you weren't depending upon other people for it. It was like with
Yeah,
you, and that's it. And you were doing something you enjoyed, and it was like a gift you were giving to yourself. I think that was great because you could just, do whatever the heck you wanted to do and actually enjoy it, not feel guilty.
yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you want, I mean, like even like I mean, I'll speak from my own experience, I guess. Like even if you wanted to do it with other people, like photography, or something, it's so easy to find groups now with like social media and stuff that like in your own town that do it. So if you really
Mm-hmm.
want to do it with other people, it's not hard to find that, and you get the same kind of thing. You still get a date set. You still get a time to go out and enjoy it, whether it's like whatever it is. Could be bird watching, could be that, could be any other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we've covered how to. What were we even talking about today? I'm
How to
kind of
find
tired
balance.
today.
I know,
I
I can
haven't
tell.
found balance in my sleep recently. I'm like so out of it. Oof.
Oh, my sleep's been a total
Jeez.
mess too. I know it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
changes, right? Changes make things hard to, it makes it hard to sleep.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Oh my goodness. Um, hmm.
Well, I'll say this then too, because we talked about this before also, that I think, you know, especially in the US, I'm sure this is the way other places, because we idolize money so much. We tend to think that like if we're not making money from something, it's not worthwhile. I think this is why people don't enrich themselves by like learning more on their own and teaching themselves. I think it's why people don't have hobbies. I think it's why people don't have a lot of things that they do. Like most people I know, they do two things. They work, or the three things. They work, they go on social media, and they watch TV.
Mm.
The latter two are their relaxation, you know?
Hmm.
And like to me, like it's not. I don't know. That's not a good way to do it because like TV and social media have their place. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging, but like you need other stuff, other activities, other things that can be successful. You need things that have no stakes. It doesn't matter if you make money. It's just fun to do because life is about like experiences broadly, not just like I think this narrow range.
Could you imagine growing up back in the day before social media, before TV? I mean, even
Well, we
with
did grow
TV,
up
you
before
still went
social media,
outside.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Like imagine growing up in our parents' day and well, no, maybe our grandparents' day and age, you know? You just go meet
yeah.
with friends, do whatever. Hmm.
Well, I think even when we grew up, it was different because we had video games, we had TV, but there was no internet really. So like video
Hmm.
games, you played in the same room together, which is very different, I think, than playing online with people. So it was still like a collective activity. And like I spent a ton of time outside because TV, there wasn't like a lot of TV on. Now there's so much content with social media and with like cable and stuff. Like, because I'm talking pre-cable and stuff. There was not that much to watch anyway. It wasn't like it was a thing that we
Hmm.
did all the time. I think it's dramatically shifted to just
Yeah.
screens all the time. And I think, a lot of people it's not that good for. You need to do other stuff and
Hmm.
stuff you want to do, like stuff that brings you joy and doesn't have that pressure of making money from it, doesn't have that pressure of, whatever. Because I think a lot of times too, like at least for me, like that's how I found the things that I most wanted to do in life too, is the things that just interested me.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like nope, there it went. Yeah. Hmm. The mine is gone today.
That's all right. It happens. It's a rough
Yeah.
episode. I'll
Oh my
carry it
gosh.
today.
Yeah,
Jesus
right.
Christ.
I know, right? Oh, finding balance in life. Yeah. But I've read these books where they talk about, maybe you shouldn't have balance. Like if you're trying to do anything, you should just be completely out of balance and just focusing on doing that one thing to achieve it. Like you should only ever have one goal and just focus on the one goal. And then when you get that thing, then you can focus on another thing. But a lot of people get distracted with too many goals. They never get done the stuff they need to do.
I do agree with that. No, I actually think that you're right. Like, if you really want something, sometimes you have to lean in heavy on that side to make it work. I mean, I think we've done that like with the programming boot camp. Like, I've leaned in really heavy to it, but it's worked out. But I'm also because I want to change careers and stuff, but I still set aside time for other stuff. I think people
Mm-hmm.
misinterpret that where they think it has to be like these what do they call like A-type persons, like
Yeah.
workaholics, like kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I think, yes, if you want to start a small business, if you want to start learning something new, you do need to lean in. You need to be able to say, like, I'm not going to go out with friends. I'm not going to do most of the things I normally would do because they're all distractions. I'm going to put my phone away. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to focus on this. And that's hard for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people. But you can make anything happen if you do that. I do agree with you. But you still need
Mm-hmm.
other things in your life. You still need a balance of other stuff because I know personally I can't do that 24/7. I burn out.
Yeah. And also maybe like underestimating how much time we actually have. Like I think we do two things. I think we both simultaneously underestimate how much time we have and we
Yeah.
overestimate how much time we have. But we are not very good at actually seeing how much time we have because we always think that, I have to do it now. I have to like, you know, how to be a programmer in 24 hours. I have to do it now. And
Yeah.
then and then we're like, I'll just watch TV another day, watch another 6 hours on Netflix, and you think you're going to live forever. So it's like we have these two faulty ways of living when really it's probably somewhere in between. You need to find a
Yeah.
balance between them. What an episode
No,
idea.
you make a good point though too about like, um that idea too that like, I have so much time, so I'll just put it off because it's only going to take me a day or it's only going to take me 2 days. Rather than like, what you said about that study, like if you spend 5 minutes a day, you're more likely to learn it than if you spend 3 hours a week, once a week. I think that
Hmm.
consistency over time really does pay off. And that also requires I think balance is like, I guess to say it more simply, it's just control, right? Having control over your life, living intentionally, rather than like living day to day kind of like a ping pong ball with pleasure and comfort as the goal.
Mm.
Because then we don't do what we want to do. We don't do things that are for us, and we're not creating a life for us.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's another balance thing about having control. Oh, because that can sometimes be a nasty thing when you try and have. I've
Yeah.
I've dealt with this recently, trying to have control and it just backfires. It's
Yeah.
kind of like finding the balance between having control and surrendering into it. Oof. Yeah. Hmm.
Well, do you think like that is a good point? Do you think that like having control requires surrendering though? To like the stuff you don't want to do? Because like I mean I think of balance as like, or at least I think of the goal as balance as like living the life I want to live, right? Like the balanced life is going to be the ideal life that I want to live, right? And when it's out of balance or out of sync, I'm not living that way.
Hmm.
And like part of that is doing things you don't want to do, obviously, because you have to get them done in order to move on to the things you want to do or move on to the other stuff. So how do you manage that or not manage it?
I mean, my way's always just been like put my head down and power through, but clearly,
Yeah.
clearly there's repercussions of that. Doesn't always work out perfectly. And yeah.
Maybe that's also it though, is that it doesn't always work out perfectly. Like even when we have to try to have control, things happen that we lose
Hmm.
it. I mean, I experienced that like 4 months ago. I thought I had everything lined up going a certain way, and then like one of my father had some health issues, and it just threw a wrench in everything because one, I was mentally it totally, when stuff like that happens where mentally your mind
Hmm.
goes away for a little while,
Hmm.
and like I had to totally reduce like what I was doing because I just didn't have the mental capacity left to like handle all that I wanted to, and it's like, it's really hard.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like there's kind of balance that needs to be struck in almost everything we do.
yeah, this is the problem.
Huh. Yeah, right?
Life is hard. Life is very hard sometimes.
Oh
It's
my
weird.
gosh, it's terribly hard and you don't get an instruction manual.
No, I wish we did. We're trying,
Oh.
trying our best to make sort of one.
Dude, but it's crazy because most people's instruction manual is freaking Instagram. And it's like, can you even imagine like the
Well,
misery that a lot of people go through because of that?
I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's so funny. Like all these things that are going to happen to all of us. We're all going to deal with suffering. We're all going to deal with stress and anxiety. We all deal with death. We all die. And yet, like, we all deal with love, heartbreak, all these things in life that are hard and difficult. We all deal with change and big changes. Yet, we never teach anybody how to deal with those things healthily or in the right way. We tell everybody they need to have success, they need to get all these achievements, but we don't tell them how to teach themselves, how to do it in a way where they don't lose themselves completely. We don't like we don't prepare people in any way. And then the people teaching us don't know how to do it because they didn't learn it. So they just skip by it, like you'll figure it out. And half of them are like
Hmm.
miserable. It's like it's really funny that we don't like think about like I think that we think of life in such a way where it's like the achievements matter more than the happiness and stuff, or like like making yourself feel important matters more than anything else. And it's like we don't actually think about like what a good life is. I think it's very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, because achievements really don't contribute to a good life. You think they do when you're going after them, but then once you get them, it's kind of like, no, no.
I mean, I think they can like some things can like some achievements like like learning like wanting really bad to do something. It can feel good and it can be a part of a good life. I think definitely like we have to feel successful. We have to feel like we're growing to feel good. At least personally, I do. But like
Hmm.
it can't be all of it, right? Because it's not all that alone will not make you happy.
Hmm.
Definitely doesn't. I
Hmm.
know it doesn't.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
an empty promise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but gratitude's been a good one. Just focusing. Like I actually heard that like I think it was Steve Harvey. He was talking and he was saying that like if you write down a list of all the things you're grateful for, and you actually just mentioned this earlier in the episode, that like the next day you'll have more things to be grateful for. And then you write those
Yeah.
down. And the next day you'll have more. And it's just like, but if you just focus on the bad things, you'll never see the good ones.
Yeah. You have to have positivity, right? Because it just like it compounds. It really does. I've noticed that so much because I remember being this is a funny example, but I remember being younger, right? Like especially like really young and like, you think you like somebody and then you notice one thing about them and that one thing becomes over exaggerated, right? And it's like you forget everything else that you did like about them. I'm sure this happened to everybody, if you know what I'm talking about. And then like,
Mm-hmm.
or the same with like say like a job, right? You really like a job or parts of a job, but then one thing, like another person or some aspect changes in the company and everything, it just seems like everything about it now is horrible, right? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
you instantly forget. So if you focus on what you're grateful for, I think you can bury all of those negative things down and put them in perspective. Okay, it's like, so, okay, yeah, there's this one thing, but I have all these things. So is it really worth destroying this because of that one thing? Probably
Mm-hmm.
not, or if it is, then okay, then that's a big thing and maybe you should, I mean, it's a way to at least make sense of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because almost all the things we have at one point we wanted them. Like the job that we hate, at one point we
Yeah.
applied for it, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody put a gun up to our head and said,
Yeah.
start working. Yeah.
I think too, it's also like when we do that too, it's also a way to kind of distract ourselves from taking responsibility and taking action. Because like if there is one thing and it really is there, well then is there anything I can do to change it? Like say it's your job and like you haven't gotten a raise, well, what can you ask for a raise? That might be a way to go about it. Like, and if they don't give you one, okay, then you can go from there. But did you do anything about it yet to actually try and change it? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if it's your partner and they don't seem to be talking to you as much, well, did you talk to them? Did you make an effort? It's like
Uh-huh.
I think looking at it that way can help us kind of find that balance and also just think about these things differently and take action rather than being passive or being like, denying things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So anything else about
Yeah,
balance?
we can end it. That was all over the place. I don't know
Okay.
what the hell we talked
I
about.
know,
That's
right?
fine.
Yeah. That was, I promise I'll be better next week. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, whatever. Who
Yeah.
cares? It's all right. We'll live.
All right. Well, that is all for today's episode on how to find balance. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Make sure to check us out where you find your podcasts and also on YouTube. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.